following is a conversation I had with Tim and Taylor Blake, the founder and producer of the Emerald Cup. Tim and Taylor have been doing huge things for our community for a long time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I know you will too. I'm Steve Geeter, your host with the most weed from coast to coast. So come with me into the CannAbyss as we explore the origins of the Emerald Cup. This episode was sponsored by Fresh Strain, the world's first and only genetically certified and verified cannabis brand. Thanks, friends. I'm Steve Geeter, your host with the most weed from coast to coast. And here we are on another version of Into the CannAbyss. And I'm here with Tim Blake, the founder of the Emerald Cup, and Taylor Blake, Tim's lovely daughter, who actually is a producer of the Emerald Cup, if I got that right.
Yeah, you did. That's
right
great.
And we've been acquaintances and friends in the community here for quite some time from a distance, and we've gotten to know each other a little bit more through events that you do. You had me out at your stage one time talking, I think, regenerative, sustainable cannabis before that was even cool to talk about. And
That's right.
you've been you guys have been paving the way for our community with your event, Emerald Cup, and all the other different things that you can tell us more about that you do for the community, with the community as leaders and some people I really look up to. And I'm grateful you're joining me today. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us. It's really awesome to be here.
Yeah, it is. Always a pleasure. Think back to CannFest when we came up here and watched you put those shows on.
That was fun.
And got to what a difference. We were talking about how much has changed since then.
It has. The first one was 2015. In 2015, so that's seven plus years ago. We did CannFest and we did our Yes We Can parade to CannFest, and it was really nice to see other leaders and people doing their events show up to the event. You know, it was an honor again. It's like you're doing an event, you're excited about it, you're hoping just your good friends and stuff show up, and then you look over your shoulder and, whoa, there's another community leader. Oh, wait, there's some more people from Southern Humboldt over there. No, there's the friends from out in Willow Creek, and oh wait, Honeydew's in the house. And, you know, you just see our community's like that. But it was it was awesome having those events. I know you know the feeling.
Yeah.
It's also tough when you build something big and not a lot of people show up. You know, with events you get the highs and the lows.
Oh yeah, you definitely do. If it rains, especially for us in Santa Rosa, it's going to be tough.
Right.
And with the economy and whatnot, it's been tough for COVID, for events. It's been a tough few years for events, really. It's amazing we're still standing.
And for cannabis events, like you mentioned, you know, with all the regulatory stuff and the way that events changed from 2015 until now,
Right.
there's a lot of different parameters on how you can have a cannabis event. 2015, my kids were there. You know.
Right.
We had a family interactive area, the family interactive zone, we call it.
Yeah.
And it was intentional. You know, that's part of the community. Of course, we're farmers and makers and sellers and doers and hustlers and whatever we call ourselves. We want our kids there. It's like our moment we're coming out of the shade and into the light. You know, that was one of the things we said in the parade. And to have the whole family there, it's important. You know, and it's like, it's also something I look up to is that you do it as a family, what you do. And like, everyone sees what you two are doing now, you know, whether you like it or not. And it's a family affair, you know. And just my hat's always off to that because it makes it tougher sometimes when you're working in a family, small dynamics and whatnot. But people say don't do business with your friends and family. But I think our communities learned something completely the opposite.
Well, it's been a labor of love, too. It's something we're both passionate about. We have a great team. And so it's really, it's fun, too. It's something we really enjoy doing in the community, the build up. Anybody that puts an event on knows that. You know, seeing those smiling faces and the ecstasy that people have and just the culture coming together, it's well worth the effort, but a lot of work and a lot of changes. I mean, that festival that you talked about, where you have kids 2 years later with legalization, you couldn't have kids. All of a sudden, they wanted us to put $500,000 into private security vaults in the back, and we had to take everything off site and destroy it. And they had no clue of what events were. And it's taken a long time, and here we are 5 years later, and they still really don't.
Right.
I mean, we need all the farmers markets we can, and yet they don't make it easy to do. That we need as many consumer markets as we can get, and it's pretty tough to do. That's why I don't see that many of them.
Right.
You know?
It's interesting how quick things have grown and how like our industry and our community is used to this like quick evolution, you know, for various reasons, you know, legacy and legendary farmers and whatnot had to change quick for the various reasons, but and then bringing that over into business, then there's so many more parameters that it's shape shifting and changing. There's no business that's still in business that hasn't made lots of changes in the last 5 years in the CannAbyss. So the event space isn't any different, and it's even been harder with, like you said, COVID and people. You know, on the end of this COVID thing or wherever we are with it, right? There's less people go out to events. Period. There's a portion of people that just aren't going to go to events.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. I think we lived in a glorious time, all of us, pre-regulations, you know? I mean, events,
Definitely.
farmers, like the whole industry, there was definitely like a time, and it's so crazy. But last time we saw you was 2015, at this house at least,
Right.
at that moment. And it's really crazy to be here 7 years later because a lot has changed and the industry has changed and it's been forced to do that. And there's some ways in which that's great and there's some ways in which it's really sad. And I think with the events, we kind of are interesting because we sort of are these community gathering points. So we sort of are like one of these moments where everybody gets together and discusses and sees kind of the changes, and it's really felt at the events.
It is. I mean, that was such a big part of what we did. And I learned what I did from stuff that you guys were doing and gals, you know, and also did what I thought was like the right things to have at our event. You know, we had more panel discussions and speakers than we did music, and we had like 34 musical performances, you know, something crazy, unnecessarily crazy stuff.
But it seems great at the moment.
Oh,
You're
it was
like,
the best.
Give it to
It was the best.
Yeah.
You know? It's possible that both of the other gentlemen in the room right here might have also played at those events and helped out with. It's 100% for sure possible, and that's why it was awesome. Everybody was into it, and like, you know,
Well, you can get away with that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have saw the look on my son's face, Lennon, when he went with me to the meeting with Cindy from Redwood Acres. Hey, Cindy, thanks for letting us have our event out there. But she got handed down a thing from the state level that said, here's how CannAbyss events, no kids on the premises, period.
Totally.
On the state fair, on the fairground, if you want to have an event there,
Right.
the kids can't, because they're doing karate over there at this fairgrounds. They have they rent off places out. So they had to shut those businesses for the weekend too to be able to have CannAbyss there. Next, we didn't have it there again.
Yeah.
And since then, we haven't had it in Humboldt again. But it kind of was devastating. I looked at my son, who almost cried when he was on my lap, and they're like, "Yeah, you can't have the kids." And we were like,
"Well, it should be normal."
I was like, "What do you mean we can't have the kids? They're on my. He's on my lap. You see him right here on my lap, right? You know, it was like he almost cried. I remember the moment. I was like, "Oh, dude, that's devastating." And it was. It's like it brings up emotions for me because that's what these events are all about. Like, tell me a little bit about, if you could start maybe, what's like one of your first memories of the Emerald Cup or how it got started, like those events that it spawned from.
Well,
like from your perspective.
So I came in later than it started. I came in 2007 was my first year. And I remember that actually I was living in Virginia Beach at the time, and my dad came out to visit, and he was telling me about Emerald Cup and what he had started and kind of a little bit about it. And it just kind of blew my mind a little bit because I was like, wait, you're doing what? You know, it was kind of like, I was like interested and confused, and I didn't know. And then that year I had moved out to California, back to California. And I was looking at, like, you know, where was I going to live in Santa Cruz or was I going to live in Mendocino, and kind of playing with both ideas. And I decided to move up to Mendocino, and it was the first year I ever cultivated outdoor. It was my first year living in Mendocino, and it was also that at the end of that year was my first Emerald Cup. So I kind of got to do the full experience of it and see, like, from a grower's perspective, even just the first year of just like, it's an enormous amount of work. And so I totally understand why people would want to celebrate the fall harvest and like think that, every grower thinks that they have the best cannabis. So
but you got all that real quick.
Yeah. And
in one season you got the full boot camp.
Yeah. So but seeing the community come together and show up at his property in Laytonville was like life-changing for me. It was really like seeing this like really like beautiful side of cannabis and what it does and the community it brings out, and just like it was an experience that I feel like shaped what I wanted to do with my life. And but I wasn't at the first ones, and so I'll let him obviously discuss like where it started and all of that, but it just gave me also this like deep respect for like how brave he was to even start an event in a time where it was really like putting yourself out there to have your property and like do all of those things. It was like truly like revolutionary in so many ways.
Did you say that was 2007?
Yeah, that was my first.
So that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Totally different
4, 5, and 6,
regulatory world.
Yeah.
Although there was Prop 215 was active at that time.
There was, but there was no legal basis for people coming together and sharing and doing the whole thing.
Definitely not.
Event. I never even got permits for the event. I didn't get legal permits all the way through until I moved to Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
So 2007 was the year that you mentioned there.
Yeah.
How many years? When did Emerald Cup start?
That was 18 years ago. This is our 19th year. It was 2004.
2004.
Yeah. So we started 2004, and that was won by a guy, an old farmer who'd never grown pot in his life. This 86-year-old guy, his kid gave it to him. It was a Purple Kush, and he grew it and won. And we didn't know till the guy came back and asked me the next day, and then he let me keep that award because he was going to be dead soon enough. So we actually have the first cup from the first year from that old man who'd never grown before.
Oh my God!
And then
the
fourth year that came in was
got that Purple Kush out there.
It came in off that, and then the fourth year was the PK that we grew that year.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first year it was you'd have to almost beg for a clone and give up got $10,000 plus part of the crop, whatever, that old PK, the offshoot of the OG. But we got it, and then we gave it to Biggin, and Biggin grew that and won with the PK.
Wow,
that was pretty cool.
So it's been going 18 years, and like the first Emerald Cup, what did that look like? Like what was
It was under 200 people, a lot of people in masks. Most people thought we'd get busted.
You say in masks?
Masks, yeah. It was disguised as 2 birthday parties, Lisa Austin and Desmond. But most people still thought we'd get busted. We didn't advertise. There wasn't a poster or flyer that first year, word of mouth. And we pulled it off. And the second year, you can see that we did a poster, and it just like exploded. The second year, all the people that were afraid, they weren't afraid the second year. And it probably had several hundred people, 400 or 500. And then you can see the evolution from the second to third. It just blew up. It just really quickly became like the whole place.
Right on.
It went from like 100 people to like maybe 400 to like 700. By the time you came in that fourth year, it was a full-on all-night party. By that time, we'd already perfected the all-night party and Survivor's Breakfast.
It was a multi-day event at that point.
No, we started doing psychedelics about midnight. Anybody that stayed up the whole night got a free breakfast because we did like a Survivor's Breakfast on Sunday morning. And so we had heavyweight dub champion one year. I don't know if it was that year. I think it was the next year. They came in, and it was late. We screwed up the production because I had too many bands, like Steve. I had everybody play, right? Too many acts. And so we had the headliner come on like at 2 in the morning, and heavyweight was like, we're out there in their bus. They're like, we're not going to come play. And we said, no, we have a whole crowd here still on psychedelics. They're ready to party with you. And so they looked inside, and there's probably a couple hundred people still there. And so they did some psychedelics with us and partied all night and played till the dawn. And then they smelled the food, and they saw it, and wondered if they could have some. We all sat outside in the sun eating breakfast.
Right on.
It was pretty cool back in those days.
Right.
It was a little more organic.
A little more wild.
It was wild.
What do you think was what do you think was the motivation like the first time you did it? What was the point? Right.
I grew up with my family just liking the county fairs, going to the sights and smells. The county fairs, the animals and the fruits and vegetables, the friendly competition. And it was like we should do it with cannabis. And High Times was still in Europe, and so we just went for it. And it was still illegal, and it was underground. And we just, I never thought it'd become what it was. I didn't think it'd become as big as it was, as quick as it was.
Right.
And, here we are now. It was one flowers contest, and there's almost 50 contests. A couple hundred prizes, 100 judges. I mean, the size and scope of the contest is huge, huh?
It's
Over 700.
unbelievable.
Over 700 entries, yeah.
Over
Just
700
amazing.
entries.
Yeah, and the legal aspect of it. People just brought it. They just brought flowers, brought them there, and we just tested them. It was really easy. We sat around, got hired and shit.
Right.
Got all my friends that could just smoke as much OG as possible and
Yeah.
just go at it. And but then over the years, it became all those different contests and the legalities and picking them up from different places and getting them to people and judges and little packages and getting schooled on exactly environmentally correct and how to do it right and just the things that we continue to evolve with, like 8,000 different flower packages and whatnot. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch from where I'm sitting. I've been I think I probably was maybe at like the fifth one or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't at the fourth one for sure, from the way you describe stuff. But most the property you started to do it at is Area 101 down there, right?
Yeah.
Known as Area 101, and anybody that's driven up and down 101 drives by that spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys get the same thing or not, and like you guys like live there and stuff, so or at least have and.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you drive right past that spot. There's something else going on there.
Well,
what else is going on there?
There was
it's always magnetic.
It was at
What
one
is
point. I
happening
mean,
there?
it started out as Area 101, and we had a lot of events. We were doing like weekend events. We did a lot of shows in the summer, in the early days. And we were really rocking it. Then, as it became more evolved, and we put the illegal lab back there, the manufacturing lab in the back, which we did for about 4 years back there. So then we had to kind of tone it down. I was doing a lot of all-night parties. We were doing trans festivals and stuff. We had to tone it down for a few years, and then legalization came in, and that kind of changed, and we moved everything off-site because we moved the dispensary. We had a dispensary there and everything else when we moved. And so then COVID hit. So it just kind of has evolved over the years through a series of changes and evolutions. But we still have the stages there. We still do shows. Smaller ones now. We haven't done a lot of big ones because of COVID and stuff.
Right.
But we'd still like to go back and open the dispensary again. I'm glad I didn't have it running, though, because of the cost of guards and armed security and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I would have been making money. It would have been crazy to be open for the COVID years and stuff. So I'm really kind of lucky that it kind of just shut down and kind of just went on ice and stuff.
Yeah.
I live across the street on the 160 acres across the street there.
Okay, cool.
So I live over there. I have a mile of frontage on Spy Rock there. But
all right.
It's really cool though that I feel like everyone that drives up the 101 past North of Laytonville, when you're like, oh, have you seen those really beautifully painted buildings or whatever? They're like, yeah, of course. You're like, that's Area 101. So that's right there on the highway. It's like where Emerald Cup started. So it's like it's not like up some dirt road and crazy off
it's like
the way.
One of the parts where 101
yeah.
is definitely the smallest road it could be.
Yeah.
It doesn't give much. It's like whoop. If you don't pay attention, you drive right into the. How many people have driven right into that thing?
A couple. They've crashed.
I mean, it's like it's a sharp turn. There's a garage right there, 15 feet from the highway.
Yeah. No,
it's the only highway going through this part of the country.
Yeah.
Right? It's just an iconic spot.
Yeah.
I always wondered what's going on here. Who is how much psychedelics are these guys doing up in these hills over here?
We did all the all-night parties, a lot of those, and we did a lot of psychedelics, but we also did the sheriff's debates there. We did the runoffs with the sheriff's debates, the first in the country. We did the district attorney debates. We did the first 9.31 program came out of there. We did a lot of cannabis stuff.
There was all those farmers markets that were super rad.
Four
for
huge
years
farmers markets there
those were really
on the borderline. So it's just a lot of stuff that we were doing, but it's been quiet for a couple of years. But then the cup takes up so much time. We had Harvest Ball, and then we're doing the cup later on. So it's been okay.
Headquarters.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So where do you currently live or spend most of your time?
I live in Willits.
Cool.
I would spend more time at Area 101, but it has terrible internet. It is not in the internet friendly zone. And even where I live, in Willits, I live on Pine Mountain. It's satellite internet, so I'm still not even in great internet in my house. But yeah,
it's hard for the rest of the world to believe that stuff, but it's real up here.
No, it is.
It's people. I think in business sometimes think that we're fibbing, because we're the internet. We're out of gigs, They're like, oh yeah, satellite internet. You're like, no, it's a thing, and
that's
unfortunately, we're still on it.
We're milking that one.
Yeah, no, I would love to have just regular Wi-Fi. So it's not a choice. That's a great one.
And where did you said you were on the East Coast around that time? Where did you grow up or spend your youth? your more youthful years?
Well, I was born in Santa Cruz. That's actually where we spent like my early childhood years, and it still is considered like I guess my hometown. Whenever I go back there, that's what I think. Yeah, I think of Santa Cruz as like a hometown for sure, and many, many, many happy memories there. But when I graduated high school, I moved to the East Coast because I have two older sisters, and they were both living there. So it was like my little touch point on the East Coast. I lived there for 5 years, and then
is it North Carolina? Is that what you said? Or?
No, Virginia.
Virginia, sorry.
Virginia Beach. Yeah.
Virginia Beach. Cool.
Yeah, very, very opposite of the spectrum of
for sure.
California.
But like as far as East Coast goes, like probably one of the closer things to Santa Cruz you could find.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a beach town for sure. Yeah. And they do have like surfing is a thing there. I don't know if it's up to the level of waves as Santa Cruz. I think that I started at like a legendary level. Yep. But it was
not Santa Cruz.
Yeah. but
I've been to Virginia Beach too, nothing like Santa Cruz, except it's at the beach.
Yeah. Beautiful though. Beautiful. I have very many happy memories there too. But I always knew I wanted to come back to California. So here we are.
How about you, Tim? I'm curious where you grew up, or like.
I grew up in San Jose.
Early part of your life, San Jose.
My grandfathers have buildings named after them. One was really had the first newspaper, and then one kind of helped build the town back then. And so my uncles and my uncle's the oldest living priest there. My whole family are just deep Catholic, liberal people. And then we moved over to Capitola near Santa Cruz. When I was a kid, we used to spend summers there. But then we moved over as a kid. And downtown Capitola, they had a 3-story bar restaurant. I moved into the keg room downstairs with the bar and pool table. High school kid. I mean, you can imagine where I hit Nirvana. It was an artist town. Pot was going off. It was the early 70s. And I just grew up right in there. My parents put an art gallery in there. All the people were coming by smoking pot. I was getting pot from all of them. I started dealing through high school. It just kind of blew up.
Yeah.
So I just kind of was raised right behind all those 18, 20-year-olds that became 25-year-olds that became the foundation for all the Thai and the hash and the Mexican and all the stuff coming from around the world.
Right on.
So
you're just like right where you wanted to be.
I was like the youngest person in that. I mean, by the time I was 19 out of high school, I was already like getting 1,000-pound lots of Thai and Mexican and stuff.
Right on, and it was from family, friends, and stuff.
Yeah, it was. Well, you had different groups. I worked for the surfers, which were kind of there was a whole group of them, but the more East Coast Florida guys, and then there was the Italians, and then you had this whole Jewish family. I worked Jeff Simon. I worked for all of them.
Yeah,
and it was kind of these different clans that were running the whole. Because they were dropping off loads, through Seattle and Portland, here, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, and then they were hitting those, and they were all going back east and just filtering out. Hundreds of thousands of pounds through the late 70s and mid 80s.
Right on. And so, like, so you've been around the herb for a long time. Do you remember the first time you got high?
Tony Del Rosa, Hispanic kid. I was in private school, and he was the Catholic Hispanic kid, and of course, great for him. He had good bud. Seventh grade, we got high. I was in 7th grade, and I knew I'd found home for me.
Right.
I loved it.
Right.
I didn't get as much. until we moved to Santa Cruz. Then it was like pay dirt, but I got high a few times with him, and it was cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you like I'm assuming you've grown weed before, right?
Uh-huh.
You remember the first time you grew, and maybe what the genetics were?
Well, I was growing some of the early, the really good, the Mexicans. I had some of the Oaxaca and stuff. I was growing some of that, and we grew some of the Thai too. Although it didn't adapt very well. But I seeded it. I was using Ed Rosenthal's book, still seeded out. I had a little backyard. I had pot all over the place. Too many plants swimming around. And it was fun, though. But I realized it was dealing where the money was at that point. Right. If we were going to make money, it was going to be dealing. So I played around with it, grew some good pot. Did find out that the Thai doesn't adapt too hard to grow over here without staging it. And those lighter South Americans were okay. Seeded out. It was cool. It was good pot, but really just dove right into dealing at major. And that's where I made all my money. Yeah. I mean, until they hit those minimum mandatories in the mid 80s and they built the private prisons, I mean, you get 1,000 pounds of Thai and you know you're going to make 200,000 off that, $2 a pound. And so you're going to make 200,000 off that in the mid 80s, early 80s. Yeah. No violence. Everybody was cool. Everybody made their mark. It's just, they're coming through. You're getting that once or twice a year. And it was like, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good world.
I bet. Yeah. People talk about the evolution of like the cannabis, and that's like people are kind of talking in the last 5 or 10 years typically when we're having this conversation more now, but if you think back, 30, 40, 50 years or something, what's happened? It's impressive to see how this plan has impacted our society on the biggest possible levels, from the banking system to the social equity aspects of it, to just it's changing the world. I know when I was a kid, I'm 45. When I was a kid, everybody was like, "Oh, you guys, you think weed's gonna be legal? You think it's gonna change the world and all that shit?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, definitely, it surely is, definitely is. It is right now. How much did you want? Boom, it's changing my world right now." But I saw my parents growing weed, selling weed and other drugs, and like right when I decided I wanted to use herb, I bought some, and I realized when you buy weed, you sell most of it, and then you keep a little bit for yourself, and like you either made a couple bucks or you broke even. So the first bag of weed I ever bought, I sold weed right the same way. I grew up similarly in a way that I saw this happening, but I saw like a lot more abusive. Maybe not more than you. I'm just saying, from my perspective, I saw more other drugs being abused or overused to the point of where I was just like, man, I don't want nothing to do with all that. But I could always see the medicinal effects of herb from a young age. You're
a lot younger than me. I mean, the way it rolled out, the 60s were rolling out into us becoming an enlightened hippie culture, yoga culture society, and it was really just beautiful. They started spiking all the acid, making it dirty, started bringing the crank in. They formed the DEA in the early 70s, but they really hadn't gotten a hold of how ingenious all these surfers and hippie kids and Jewish kids and Italian fishermen and all of them, just the whole culture was going to like, we'll figure this shit out.
Right.
And we get over to South America and Asia and everywhere and bring these massive loads in. I mean, 100,000-pound loads easy off each of these ports, and doing that several times a year going back east. I mean, it was amazing what a machine it became so quickly. And how their response to that was to put those private prisons in and the minimum mandatories in, and how that spawned the indoor as a result, because it shut that whole thing down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, overnight, you had this massive, incredibly high-tech indoor industry that just blew up in the late 80s through the 90s.
Just shifted and boom.
Yeah.
And that was a thing.
And it wasn't going to be stopped.
And it was the overgrow. The government has always been that's how I was referred to it. All this growth, whether it was indoors, outdoors, all of it together, was like overgrow the government. And then the laws changed according to the public opinion. It's like when people's change the way they feel about stuff and they change their perspective, shortly then the laws start to change. It's like when I started helping people try to get licensed for cannabis, 2015, we started our consulting just to help people get licensed. So many things have changed in that time. Like the people that are sitting in the seats now are different people. Yeah. And the shit fucking, boom, it works in the cities that do.
Right.
But then we have all these other cities like Long Beach or something like this. These different sectors where, not necessarily Long Beach. We were just talking about areas down in SoCal where you can't. There's no weed. There's more counties where you cannot have herb in California than there are counties where you can openly sell, have dispensaries, and have grows. It's more restrictive than people think.
Well, that's the way 64 was set up. That was a sellout to just get 64 in there, was to give each of the cities and counties the right to make their own choices, and it should have never been agreed to. As soon as you start making those compromises, it's not the same deal. It's like, if we would have never had that, we'd have 10,000 dispensaries, not 1,000. And you'd have way more choice, and you'd have much more of a competitive nature to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and then opening up the large-scale farming, which is also, they should have never been allowed to do that either. And I realize politics are it's all crooked. Just the whole thing is from that. That would just finish me off, watching that mess that they did to us. Because that's what really screwed us, was opening up all the large-scale farming. And
like, you can have 5 years,
Well, now all of a sudden, land in Salinas went from 20 to 80,000 an acre, and land up here, it crashed.
Yep.
Everything down in those foothills, those valleys went. But That's what that is, and it's been a cat and mouse game. I mean, when we were doing the big indoors, and then they couldn't get you because they couldn't get the satellites to really bust people, and then as soon as they got permission for the feds to use those big heat-sinking planes that could dial in the indoors, within 18 months they took out all of Mendocino. Within a few years after that, they took out Humboldt,
Right.
and so that was in the early 2000s, and that's when we moved into legalization. And then they backed up and said, okay, these guys have beat us for 30 or 40 years. We've done everything we can to stop all this alternative money and everything that's going on and this thing we hate. So now we'll just come at them legally and we'll just destroy them that way.
Right.
And so we'll just figure out 280E and we'll figure out all the taxes and regulations and we'll just totally ruin them.
Toast.
And so really we're sitting here at the end of this, after this big war, and we've won because it's going across the country and the whole world, and it's the greatest thing we could ever have hoped for, except for the legacy farmers and the people that really built the industry.
Yep.
They're, for the most part, they've been decimated.
Yeah.
And it's like a casualty of war or something. And really they should be given some kind of, I've been saying it, some kind of subsidy. We were talking about before. They should be, every person that can prove they were in for 10 years or more, or did something at a certain level, whatever the criteria for honesty or whatever, just like all the other, they should be given, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a piece.
Right. Yeah. There's been a big shift, and it's left a lot of families out. And it's changed. It's changing the culture in a way, and
the communities. I mean, their whole communities. Even like when we were just driving up here, because I live in Willits, he lives in Laytonville. The next town that's like a big town that we used to like talk about going to all the time was Garberville, and it was always like, let's stop at Garberville, and it's got like a lot of life in it and all this stuff, and it's like some of these communities are being just like, decimated by the economy that is coming out of cannabis. That is 2022.
It is, and it's we see a little bit less here in Humboldt North, because we're built around like city centers that are more related to, in this case, like Humboldt State University is right here.
Two colleges.
And just the commerce, like the statewide things that people get or that aren't weed are coming from these cities up here. And so we see a little bit less of it, but when you drive just out of, people that just spend all their whole day in McKinleyville may not have seen as much of a shift.
Yeah.
Although they've seen a shift in a different way. Like McKinleyville at one point was per capita probably the number one per capita people growing weed of a town in the country. I don't know that there could have been another one,
Yeah.
That's actually in every second house.
Yeah.
And everyone there, it was just bustling in that way. Now it's like 80% of the people are not growing in their houses, at least, or more, that were. So, I mean, that's just like an indoor kind of a perspective of it. But when you drive through, like I just did Southern Humboldt all the time, Garberville's not the same at all. And it's
never going to be the same.
It will never be the same, right?
Yeah,
and so the community's changed so much. It's like, I think one way that we've see things in a similar light is like these events bring people together around the things that need to change.
Right.
And some of it's legal stuff, and some of it's the cultural aspects of it. And so, I mean, what other kind of exciting things can we bring people together around now? It's like,
well,
what are some of the hot topics for Emerald Cup, say, this year? What are some of the hot topics?
We're going to announce a couple new contests at the Harvest Ball that we're going to add into to kind of extend the year for our, our farmers and our brands and stuff. We're going to be bringing that up. The whole thing with the terpene classification was a big success, breaking that out and really bringing that education to people. We're developing an almanac of sorts. We're not calling it an almanac, but it is a data point of sorts of everything we've done over all these years, from all the entries and all the whatnot. Working with Michael Bacchus and Mark Lewis and Alec Dixon, and we're putting that together to really bring more information, more of a guidepost for people around the country and the world of what's taking place, so they can really make their own educated choices.
Sounds like Pandora's box.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of that's a lot of fun that we've been working on with that too. Moving into LA, trying to do what we can to get a consumer show in LA for next year, because that's what we know we went down this year, we were talking about it with the farmers and the contestants, which they love the theater show and they love going to LA and doing that. But we want to do that again next year. But we also want to have a consumer show so all those brands can be down there selling directly to LA markets and evangelizing and showing off what we do throughout Northern California and and the mountains down
That's
to where it matters. So we're going to work hard on that. And then we're bringing back the Harvest Ball this year. We're still doing the Harvest Ball. We did a huge program for like 50 farmers got free booths last year. And this year we're going to make it even larger.
Right on.
And we helped a lot of those farmers also get free entries. So they won, and it really helped them across the board. So really it's just about being here for the farmers and the brands and standing with everybody in this really challenging time.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's important stuff, and it is a tough time, and thanks for doing that. Everything it seems like that your events do, from my perspective, is upping the community constantly and figuring out a way to do that financially. You know, a big part of throwing events is, well, how much is this going to cost me?
Totally.
Or us? Or how do you bring in the sponsorship and or entry fees to build these towns that you build for a weekend or longer? You know, I think when, you know, I'm sure it's set up a couple days before and a couple days after. You're probably at the fairgrounds or the different venues for like a week long.
Right. Yeah, it's so much work. It's one of the, like, you know, as anybody that's run an event of a large size, you understand the undertaking that is, you know, the like year-long process to throw something that's safe and a great, well thought out event. So it is, but it's such a fun thing. I mean, the year that we didn't have an event, it was weird. It was like the weirdest thing to not have an Emerald Cup in December. And I think that it was like, if anything, it was a crisis that gave us an opportunity to realize like the special joy that is putting on the Emerald Cup. But then also it gave us the extended timeline for our competition. So that was really nice because we used to do the contest and the award show in December, and it allowed us to really push that back. And so
I've watched that and completely understand that.
It was actually a really good benefit for us because we were able to work with Social Club TV, which is Alter now. We had 10,000 signups for the last year's live broadcast. I don't know what we had this year, but so we got out to a nationwide and worldwide audience. So it really opened up the cup in a different way that we had never really done. So now we'll stream it live, the award ceremony anyway, next year for sure. So that was a huge benefit for us. And then realizing that people did want to still gather for the fall harvest and just to get together and just make it more of that party, so we can do the Harvest Ball in a different way and just bare bones it and still hope to go to LA.
Cool. Yeah, they say, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So, you know, I started doing this into the CannAbyss program the same way during this pandemic situation. In the beginning, I'm a people person. I like to meet people. I need to see them and see their facial expressions and hand movements and arm crosses and stuff like that. That's what life is about to me. And all of my businesses and anything I've done to help anyone else or help myself in the world, it always is, it's better, like engaging with people and stuff. So when all this stuff started to happen, I was like, I got to connect to people. So I'm just started interviewing people. And this is really the first one where we're recording the audio properly and video, and we'll have this live forever on our YouTube page that we're going to start pushing these interviews. But thanks for just for being my guest on the first one that's going to live forever, because like Instagram takes our stuff away from us.
Right.
That's not right. And anybody in the CannAbyss knows this. Like, they take your stuff from you that you've put hundreds of thousands of hours or dollars towards, and or all of your, it's the only place where your media is living, and then someone takes it from you because someone else complained or whatever kind of bullshit that they do this for. So, you know, we were like, man, we've got to do this differently. And so just coming back at this and being able to have in-person interviews with people is really where I'm looking to take this. And a part of what I'm trying to do, because I want what you're saying and the things you have to offer to hit people all around, and those kids that you know back from the East Coast when you were growing up, and those families that still know you from all your travels and worldly path. I mean, people need to hear this stuff from the people who are leaders and making a difference. When things get hard, you change. When doors close, windows open, and leaders know that kind of movement, you know. And so it's been cool watching the evolution of what you do, and like, I'm just as interested as anyone else in this conversation we're having to find out, you know, what's next, and how can I be involved, and how can we all be involved, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, when you take chances, you can have great opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the old Shirley MacLaine saying, you have to go out on the limb because that's where the fruit is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like by doing that thing in LA, people thought we were greedy or we were doing it for money or something else. And it was like really to connect the Northern California down to Southern California consumer base and who we are. But when they came down and saw that, it was so rewarding to see that. And then because of that, to create Woody out of that, that just became like this thing that became this whole addition that would have never happened because he wouldn't have done it up here. Right. It just happened the way it went to be. It was just like, wow, just a magical, miraculous thing that just came out of that spontaneous moment.
Super cool.
Us just doing it and getting down there. So we're really excited to go back next year and really do it in a larger, better way.
Oh, that's a great look. It reminded me of, like, you mentioned Champs Show earlier, and Champs has always been an event promoter and organizer that we've all watched from whatever perspective, that built shows around glass blowing and all things like cannabis related that are not cannabis related, right? And for all the head shops and smoke shops where you have to ask for a water pipe and you can't ask for a bong.
Right.
Where I came from, that was in Philly.
Yeah.
If you said bong, they kicked you out of the store. Literally. So I've been kicked out of the store. I asked for a bong. Oh, we just drove all the way here.
To jail for that shit.
Just said bong. We just drove 25 minutes to get this thing.
Well, also even just
because there weren't very many stores around where I was neither. You had to go drive 25 minutes to find a head shop. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just was gonna say, because as a grow shop or a cultivation store, I mean, even the whole like ruckus of used to go in and being like, I have tomatoes and tomatoes, and everybody talked about tomatoes, and it was just like normal. Like you just like acted like it was like fine, and you were like, yeah, my tomatoes are flowering. So
you'd always see somebody in the other aisle's eyes come up like, like yeah, tomatoes. But it was so the Champs Show. We kind of helped organize the first time. We brought the Grow Show to the Champs Show.
Oh, you did.
And we had the whole hydro show. We organized it and helped pull it off as Humboldt Wholesale and the other group of people we were working with. And we came to Champs Show. And we had it separated just by a curtain.
Yeah.
Right? So you could just walk into both of them, but they were separated because we were going to feel it out.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh, we made it. So open cannabis use started happening all through the whole building. And I think it was the Mirage or whatever it was. Kicked everyone out. Never again. Champs wasn't allowed back. Hydro Show never allowed back again. But that was the kind of the vibe like we're talking about. It was like, oh shit, everyone's coming together now. It's like the glass blowers are here. We got the hydro shit over here.
Yeah.
That was the first taste of that kind of thing.
They just weren't ready. Yeah.
Oh man, big. All the businesses that could show their faces and represent cannabis came together, and that's what.
But those people just have a freak out moment.
Yes.
The people in charge just look around and they just totally lose it.
They freaked out.
And they freak out. Happened even at the Flamingo Dish last year, at the Harvest Ball, they were just like, this is too much. Even at the place at the EC, he started freaking out. He saw people on the top. He's like, there's just too many people drinking and smoking.
Right.
Well, and I think also sometimes they see like people taking dabs and like that whole culture too, and they think like it's like, oh, it's like too much like
it is. I get it. Yeah, it's like you're using tools and stuff. It looks weird to people from the outside, kind of. The dab thing's kind of the most cracky thing we do, you know.
And that guy keeled over probably didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta take baby dabs to start. You know what I mean? It's just
I've gone down from dabs. You know, if you haven't, you're not
not doing it right.
So yeah, cultural. Like, are there any things that you see on the horizon? Like dabs took over, and solventless is the top shelf item, and that's great for a lot of the solventless and sun-grown farmers and all. That's part of that regenerative farming culture and all that stuff that all the leaders taught us. And Frenchie showed everybody how to make the hash and spread that energy around. About is there anything that you see coming next, or you got any ideas of stuff you personally are working on, or something you're seeing in the distance happening?
We're not working on it, but a thing I think that just for me personally in the industry that I'm like the most excited about the development of and expansion of is just cannabis beverages, because I feel like as a non-alcoholic drinker, I stopped drinking alcohol 2 years ago. It's one of those things where
it's 6 years on that.
And then it's like nice when you get to like go out and you're like, ooh, you have like a low milligram beverage. I also like high milligram beverages too, but I just mean for like a social setting. Sometimes low or nice, And so it's just like, but the expansion of that whole market is just so exciting, because I feel like it also touch points a new like person that's going to be a consumer.
Like, how much soda water do you drink?
I don't even want to admit to it. If I have
a lot of jars and bottles and cans and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, if I just have a little bit in there, it's perfect.
Yeah.
So if you have these little thing you can just spike your drinks with. I think that's like,
well, see,
I see that as like something that
It blew up.
almost would definitely continue to evolve. You know?
My number one purchase product, hands down, has got to be Wendy from Space Gems. Her gem juice.
The gem juice.
Yes,
yeah.
totally. I buy that regularly.
Purple scissor. Like,
yeah.
sure,
Pour into a Topo Chico, and it's a lovely afternoon. It's
so
like
there
all
you go.
day
There's something on the come up. Sorry, Wendy, we're blowing it up for you, but it's and thanks, Wendy, for always making awesome stuff. Space Gems is like, those are folks I've known, Josh and Wendy, for like ever. They've been supporting North Coast Horticulture Supply, my business, for 20 years, and McKinleyville found business in one of those houses we were talking about earlier. You know, it's just and they make like that's your favorite thing to use.
Well, yeah, like
or
right
one
now,
of them. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like
it's
that says something about our culture and community. Like we are doing stuff right. You know, and and thanks for doing all the things that you two do right for us all, because you're paving the way, dude. You rolled out the green carpet for everyone, and
well, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
Got to get to New York. Got to get to Europe.
There you go.
New
York's the next spot, right?
Yeah. Well, we have to get to LA. I mean, LA is the biggest media market, the biggest cannabis market in the world, and then of course New York right behind that. And New York's opening up, and it's amazing how many people are already paving the way for us that are already going in. So that's what we're going to do, and that's what we have to do. We have to take this as we open up. We have to take these brands that are left in the triangle and take them to New York.
That's it. I agree.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that time and to be able to be a part of this thing moving forward. I'm not going to quit. You know, I got until we get back to Philly, the way we represent here. That's my goal. You know, that's where I grew up. That's where my family's from. I grew up in New Jersey and Philly. But when we have that Yes We Can parade down Independence Hall, where they signed all the papers and shit to make our country official or whatever they told us they did. Once we go down that road and we have our Yes We Can parade, then I'll be like, all right, now what the hell are we doing next? You know, but that's a huge goal I have, and
that's cool.
Man, if there's ever any way you want any help with that, or I could help bring that thing, or if you have any interest in bringing that thing to Independence Hall, straight down Philadelphia, where the country was founded and stuff, I would do anything I could to be a part of that and bring this Yes We Can community parade to right there, you know, and all these other places we're trying to go. It's like, it's that energy that I see around what you're doing that excites me and got us to hit you up to have a chat and a conversation today. I was like, all right, let's reconnect here and try to keep the vibes right. You know, like that's a big part of what it is, and like-minded people, really small groups are the ones that make big change from what I hear. You know?
Yeah, but you know, you have we had about 1,200 people down there in LA with us. And when you take that, maybe make it a little bit larger, but 2,000, and you embed that into any festival in New York, or we'll have a significant California presence of like our community tribe at those shows.
Definitely.
And we'll go in there, and you know, we'll have the color. We'll have and we'll interact and work well with all the other tribes and communities because we're open, and so are they, and you know, they love coming out here too.
Yeah.
And so
it is exciting to look at that. To look at it's coming we're going across state lines here soon. Like, do you have any prediction on that? What do you think?
Within 2 years. I don't
within
think
two
at the most. I think my prediction within 2 years is you're going to see so many changes. You'll see more changes than the last 2,000. I think you're going to see free energy be given to the people and acknowledged completely. I mean, true free energy. Where everybody gets free energy. I think they're going to retire, take maybe $500-600 trillion in debt, and retire all the debt of the world and clean the oceans up. And I think we're going to be freely giving cannabis and the plant medicines with psychedelics are right as a part of that whole thing, bringing us in to get us ready to introduction to our ET friends, which I think will also take place within 2 years.
2 years.
You watch, yeah.
All right.
But the interstate will be here with definitely.
So next time when we come 2024, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You watch.
Well, you won't even
it'll be sooner than that.
You won't even really have to come. You could just go like this.
We'll just
and
blink and be like,
oh, you watch. It won't be that long. You watch within 6 months. You watch.
Right?
But yeah, we're going to go federally interstate, and that's going to be really good for, of course, Emerald Triangle and California brands.
Yeah.
People love our stuff. They will across the country and the world. The thing to me is it's going to be cool because you're going to have South American flowers coming up here and entering a competition. Is that like a sativa contest? Is it South American? What are the rules to all that? And Africa and stuff, some of the great flowers from there. We're going to have like really incredible as soon as you can transport it freely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks to your help. It makes a big difference, these big groups of people getting together, saying important things to their legislators and going and down to the state capitals and marching on the steps and doing all this stuff. You've been helping do that too and been a big part of all that. And it makes a big change. Like you said, some of your local meetings make laws change. We've watched this happen. Yeah, Not that we're like big into politics, but there are some ways that politicking has made a change and better for us.
Well, it's done the beginning, and then unfortunately it comes behind with the big boys come by and scoop it all up, and they're doing the same thing in the plant medicine with the psychedelics as they have with cannabis, and they're going to own most of it. But the good thing is that power is coming in, like that gentleman we're talking about that has the $115 million facility in Mississippi. They're on the blue ribbon panel for legalization for the Senate panel.
For Mississippi?
Yeah, well, no, for the worldwide, for the countrywide panel.
Gotcha.
And so they're, because who are they inviting in? They're inviting in people like this that are like totally like heavyweights in their state or their area that have 120 million, that are investing it.
Right.
And these people are getting together, and Pair.org and all of them, they're the ones that are deciding the legalization. And it's just time. They see it and then they want the money.
Right.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Security, clothing, every aspect of it's just bucks. So manufacturing here, once they get the manufacturing here, it'll just explode. And they're going to own that too. So, yeah. But it's going to be a good world.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate those predictions, and I hope most of those come true.
Oh, they will. You watch.
Definitely.
You watch.
I'm sure it would have been cool to have a prediction from last time we met, but we'll just have to do this each time.
I was gonna say if in 2015, if I would have predicted where we are now, I don't know if I would have fully predicted. I think I would have been like a little bit more like, I guess, like forward thinking than I think we are at this point. Because you never could have predicted. COVID, even that was
could have predicted how much we'd be conned. The bottom line is this was like the biggest con job in history. And I voted for Gavin Newsom. Yeah. I listened to him say that we'd never have large-scale farming and believed him and evangelized for it.
On the Blue Ribbon Commission.
I'm one of those people. I swallowed that hook all the way down, and I deserve all the disgrace for it. But they definitely just ruined us. And nobody would have ever been able to predict that they would do such an efficient job. What they really couldn't do to the legacy market through beating us up in the outlaw world all those years, they did in like 7 years in legalization. Oh, yeah. They just destroyed us.
Right.
But
that's it.
We have a lot of heart. I think that's the thing that the community always comes out with, is that it's like, it's definitely like a group of free thinkers that are going to just always find a path, and
definitely.
That's the way.
We had one, I think it'll just be small wins in the direction going back from what they've done. Just like we had a cultivation tax kind of win.
Yeah.
Although it wasn't the whole package wasn't necessarily what everybody wanted, but one small win was elimination indefinitely of the cultivation tax. But if you read, they want to make it up over here and add it to the excise tax or whatever. So, but that's what's
what's
proposed.
It's all compromise. That's what happens.
Constantly.
You end up constantly compromising. It's never the deal, and you end up being a career politician and realize you just sold your soul.
Right.
For like all these little bits and pieces.
So if there's any advice you have for anybody out there that's listening to this, that listens to it, that's in the biz or wants to be, what do you got?
Well, they better do the very finest product in the world if they're going to be any part of the cannabis world or the plant medicine world. Mm-hmm. And they better have a great story, and they better be passionate about social media marketing, because you can't only not be, you have to be the whole package. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it's like what it is with the singer now. You got to be like, Taylor Swift, whatever. You got to be able to sing, write your own songs, and be like a superstar at 12 years old.
Play all the instruments.
Yeah, play all the instruments and do the whole thing. But really, I think that it's for me, it's true. And we're talking with Sawa and Janine and about the lack of hope and the lack of ability to survive in this industry. And I think that, heard on another show, I think we're really close to a true revolution and taking back the world. And I think that's going to happen, because you can't go any further, or you end up with like the French Revolution, where you start guillotining people and just taking people out. And that's where we're at, because you can't make people suffer on the rat wheel with so little for so. Like Sawa was the perfect example. You know, cookies. She's got a great store. She's making money. She's doing it all legal. She's got cultivation, done compliance, and she's not making it. You know, she's talking about getting out of the business, and you know, it's not right. There's something we're not thriving. We're not thriving not only in Canada, across the nation. We're not thriving, and we should be. And that's going to happen one way or the other, or we're going to take back this world.
Yep.
So I'd say get prepared for the revolution. Although it's going to be peaceful, it's just we have to just take it back.
You got to be prepared for that. Yeah, as you're saying, if you're bringing something to the table, make sure it's top notch or it doesn't have a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, do it because you love it. You know what I mean? That's the thing is you don't
There's
do it
great
because
advice.
don't do it because you're just trying to make a buck, because that's not going to be a long-term plan necessarily. You got to do it because it's a product that you love, or it's because you love cultivating. Like, you know, and that's if you love making solventless, if you love trimming, if that's the part of the industry that you want to get in, then that's, you know, I just find something that you love, and then that will be felt in the product that comes out.
Right. That's great advice. The first few, you know, when I was looking to grow what I'm doing here, or different businesses at times, I meet somebody that wants to invest into the company.
Yeah.
And before the conversation's done, they're interested in when they can start getting like a return on their investment.
Totally.
And then I'm like, I don't understand that. I thought when you invest, you don't ever get it back. Like,
Right.
what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So there's just like a different type. What
Yeah.
are you investing for? To just have return on your investment, or do you want to own some of this company? Do you want to take the risk along with the rest of us?
Right.
To have something become greater later.
Right.
You know, you can't necessarily, you know, so that's the biggest gap, I think, for a lot of people too. It's like, you know, if your investor's not investing for the right reason, or your money's not coming in for the right reason, it's still going to take your goals and suck the life out of your goal, of the vision of the company and stuff. So yeah, I think you gotta love it and do it out of love for the sport.
Mediocre
That's convertible
products,
notes,
you
and
know?
that's convertible notes that they did. That's all those notes they got, where they're loaning you the money and they get the interest unless the business does great, and then they get to get the stock, and they're just coming back now and taking all these people's companies.
Right.
Flocanas, Henrys, all of them, because none of them can make the notes.
That's what's happening. And so yeah, stay strong out there, everybody, and you know, make good decisions. Partners are the most important aspect.
Yeah, they are.
In ways.
Yeah, very hard to find good partners.
Yeah.
That'll work as hard as you.
Yeah.
If you're a very hard worker, almost better to do it alone and find a good woman or partner, wherever you are.
Someone
and find someone
ride
to
your
work
back. If you're doing all the work, people jump on your back, and 10 years later, you're like, wait, who's all on there? You know, or at least, yeah. Well, no, it's been a great conversation, and I look forward to the next one, and I look forward to the ball, and coming and hanging out, and I'm sure I'll see you somewhere in between then and now. But thanks so much for coming out today and being a part of this program, and doing all the things you do, and being leaders for us to look up to. We need it, you know, and that's thanks.
Well,
thank you for having us. This is exciting.
Yeah, this is what it's all about, because it's through education and inspiring people to really transform, reach for it, that, you know, we make the difference. So at the end of the day, we've done our job with cannabis. I want to really leave it on a great note. I mean, cannabis is never going to be stopped, and neither is other plant medicines. So the world is going to be changed for the better, and we did a heroic thing. Now it's just helping as many of the family as possible.
That's it. So if you watch this and you enjoyed it, and you want to find out more about our friends that spent their time with us today, Tim and Taylor Blake, the Emerald Cup. You go to their website. I'm sure you'll find all their social media links, and start typing names on the Google there. You'll have a field day.
Tim's on LinkedIn. He loves LinkedIn.
Right on.
Talks about it all the time. Find him there.
All right.
What, there's some people that are really across the country. There's some really amazing business people on. You see some backgrounds that are stunning.
It's true.
Just like,
LinkedIn does a good job of breaking down what people are doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. We'll catch you the next time.
Thank you. Thanks again, and thank you for joining us. Peace.
Yeah.